Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Insomnium, Songs of the Dusk, out November 3rd on Century Media. This EP has 3 tracks, 22 minutes in length, and this is the band's 4th. They are a Finnish melodic death metal band. Now these are 3 brand new songs, 3 songs that, believe it or not, didn't make the cut of Anno 1696. And that to me is shocking considering the quality of these songs. These are 22 incredible minutes of music. If you had these songs on the main record, I could make an argument that these could be possibly the best songs out of that album. So the fact that these didn't make the cut is shocking, but it also speaks to the incredible quality of music that they had at their fingerprints when it came down to decide what songs they needed on that album. I understand that you have a concept, you're telling a story. The album is really intertwined as far as how the songs work with one another. So perhaps from that standpoint, not necessarily sonically, but from that standpoint, it's harder to find room for these songs. So having these tracks come across as bonus scenes, like you have in one of those Marvel DC movies that after the credits roll, there's a little bit of a bonus scene that almost works as a cliffhanger to what the next movie is going to be all about. These 3 tracks kind of feel a little bit like that, but they have incredible quality, and they have a lot of things in common, and they have a lot of things that separate them from one another. So it's a very compact, balanced, but still very dynamic EP with 3 very interesting songs. And when you look at them just across the surface, you can see the uniquenesses and you can see the commonalities. The main commonality is definitely the acoustic guitars. The acoustic guitars on this EP, on these 3 songs, plays a very important role. A role that doesn't just add melody to the tracks, but adds this cold, chilling effect that creates a very stripped down, very, like I said, chilling atmosphere in the sound. And you're gonna find that on all 3 songs. And when you look at that atmosphere, when you look at that stripped down acoustic sound, and you tie it into the lyrics and you tie it into the moment within the song, it makes total sense. It allows the tracks to reach another level and create a different dimension for the listener. Now, what separates these songs is more of a sonic output. You look at Flowers of the Night, to me it feels more like a doom track. It has a little bit more of that doom and gloom, if you will, a little bit more of a melancholic touch in how that song comes across. Then you have Stained in Red, a more progressive metal song, almost in line with something out of the Enslaved Camp. And that progressive sound is not a strange thing to Insomnium, but I felt like on this track they were able to push that envelope a little bit more, not push it too far, but make it a little bit more noticeable, not just a nuance, but a little bit more noticeable. And then you have Song of the Dusk, a track that has all of those prototypical elements of a melodic death metal song made by Insomnium. Very melodic, very beautiful, very haunting. So 3 really interesting songs that one thing they don't lack, quality. Now, let me break down these songs a little bit more for you so you have a better idea what to expect. Flowers of the Night is the first song on the EP. Starts off with that acoustic, cold, but inviting sound, very embracing. It really allows you to immerse yourself into that sound. And then you have a deeper vocal performance that comes with it. Almost fainted. Almost like life is being stripped out of you. Like I said, very cold, almost shivering. And that is the vocal performance that builds around that sound, and I thought that was a very interesting dynamic because the 2 paired up extremely well. Now the track builds up, there's a little bit more sound, there's a little bit more emotion, and the melodic guitar riff that cuts through the heaviness of the sound really allows this track to have a lot of great texture. It also creates a duality between the cold side of the acoustic guitars and a little bit more of the warmer side of the heavy guitar sound. So that duality really plays a big role in this song, and infusing a melodic guitar bridge adds to that whole melancholic feel that this track has. Then that leads you into the solo section, which is a great solo section, and then you just kind of feel like the song is building towards the start, because that's exactly what happens. This song goes full circle. The way it starts, it's exactly the way it ends, so you feel completely encapsulated. It's a track that doesn't have differences, that it starts in one way, it builds up in one way, you reach the climax at that bridge, and then after that bridge you start to work towards what it was in the beginning of the album. It's almost like you move forward and then you start to go in reverse. Really interesting design, really interesting approach for the opening track. Next you have Stained in Red. The drums and guitars together, very heavy, and there's a dark melodic riff on top of that heaviness that kind of allows it to cut through some of that heaviness, making it a little bit more predominant. Now, bringing acoustic elements to this song, it works because it adds an earthy texture to this track. Still cold, but not as cold as it is in Flowers of the Night, and definitely not as cold as it is in Song of the Dusk, but still cold, but more earthy than cold. But it still ties into the other songs because it's that commonality, it's that common denominator that's really important for an EP that has this kind of mindset behind it, that has this kind of theme behind it. Definitely a more progressive song. You're going to see that more on the guitar side, but that progressive sound is very subtle. It's not necessarily abrupt. It's not necessarily pungent. It has more of an ability to merge in with the atmosphere, merge in with the sound texture of the song, but you still definitely notice as a different element coming from the guitars. Not as, instead of just being melodic or being heavy or being driven, you have this more progressive experience that definitely changes the texture and changes the dynamics. But it combines really well. It's a song that feels very dynamic, like I said. It has a great journey, has a great path, and it really takes the track into a very subtle progressive death metal ground that it works really well, specifically when squeezed in between two songs that have more in common than necessarily separating them. And then it closes off with Song of the Dusk, my favorite track on this EP. The signature melody riff that this song has is beautiful, it's cold, it's heartfelt, it's warming at the same time because it's welcoming, it's inviting, and it works really well because it becomes the hook, it becomes the spinal cord, it becomes the fingerprint of the entire track. You're gonna see it throughout the song, and then you're also gonna see it in the solo section because the solo section piggybacks off of that same melody and includes parts of that melody into the solo and then expands upon it. So it's a piece of the song that is not always there from the first moment to the last moment, but it's undeniable in terms of the impact that it has and how it becomes the red line that connects the dots as you progress. And like I said earlier, a more traditional melodic death metal sounding song, a more traditional melodic death metal Insomnium song. It has a great piano bridge, and then piano bridge with clean vocals. It's absolutely mesmerizing, it's beautiful, it's haunting, it's all the things that we've come to expect from a band like Insomnium. This song has all the trademarks. It hits all the cliches. If I was going to show a track out of this EP to somebody who's never heard Insomnium and I wanted a song that really encapsulates who the band is, this to me would be it. It's definitely my favorite, is the one that feels a little bit closer to home because of all the elements. This is the Insomnium sound that I gravitate to the most out of all the changes, out of all the differences, out of all the nuances that they create. More proggy, less proggy, more doomy, less doomy. This track has all the right ingredients, and it comes down to that riff. If you don't enjoy the melody on that guitar riff, if you don't appreciate it, if you don't feel connected with it, then I don't know, you don't have a pulse. That's the kind of riff that this song puts forward. This is it, Insomnium with their latest EP, Songs of the Dusk, out November 3rd on Century Media. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the tracks. Hit me up in the comment section. Dying to read those. I'll see you all at the next video.